everyone, and welcome back. I hope everybody had a fantastic Thanksgiving. For all of you that were out there on the road, making sure deliveries got made, thank you for all that you do. So today I wanted to talk to you about becoming a freight broker. And I had a very nice conversation with a gentleman who's going to be on the show the 17th at 4 p.m. And during our conversation, it kind of struck me, a lot of the things that are not talked about in, first starting out as a freight broker, or, maybe you're 6 months in or something and you're not seeing a lot of success. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that today. Before I get into that, don't forget to check out some of my recommended tools and services in the description below. You will thank me later. Everybody else who has utilized those tools and services have been just blown away. And, like using eCarrierCheck, Nate and the guys over there, just phenomenal guys. Don't forget to check out their YouTube channel as well. Great resource for sourcing carriers, shippers, everybody over at Operfi, Tom, Danny. If you need factoring, absolutely. I can't say enough about them. I mean, between their boot camps, all the education, all of everything that they do to help you succeed, right? These are companies that I believe in, that I utilize. They are hands down the best. If you need a discount code, if you're just getting started, you need DAT. I do have a link for your 10% off every month for the first 12 months. So that being said, let's get into it. So there was a lot of things that, we kind of reflected back to when, this gentleman and I first got into freight brokering, and we both started out very differently. We came from different backgrounds and things. And so, and I'm not going to get into that. We may touch on that on the 17th, but one of the things that kind of we sort of touched on, like I said, that sort of determines your success as a freight broker. And I would say that I could sum it up with the word determination, right? Because I think that a lot of people get into this thinking that there's easy money. You just call up a shipper and say, hey, can I get added to your distribution list? Sure. And you may get some of those, they said, yeah, send me over your packet. I'll send you over there. But the problem with that being is that you are going to be one of 100, 200 other brokers and carriers all bidding or fighting for that freight, right? And it's going to be tough to move. A lot of shippers, I shouldn't say a lot, but there's going to be shippers out there that'll readily give you their freight, but there's no money in it, right? You're going to take 42 phone calls from carriers inquiring about a specific load. And let's just say hypothetically that the market rate on that is 21. Customer wants to pay 18. Now you've got to try to get a carrier, and let's say that comes up to like $1.92 a mile or something, right? That carrier is probably wanting to be at least $2 a mile. There's no way, right? You're going to get somebody desperate, at 3 o'clock or something, assuming it doesn't have to pick up till the following day or after 3. It becomes a nightmare, and you end up just sort of spinning your wheels for little to no money. Okay. And another thing is, one of the biggest things that we do as freight brokers or freight agents, right? This includes agents as well, is sales, right? Whether it's, selling the load to the carrier or selling your services to the customer, right? Your prospect. And some calls go simpler than others. Some are very difficult. I mean, seriously, you're going to end up with instances where basically they'll say, yes, send me over your packet, and you'll send numerous emails, right? Don't get fixated on that. Okay. Just move on, right? I'm not saying stop emailing them follow-ups, but don't get bogged down into, well, I've got this customer, right? And that's a trap that I find a lot of new freight brokers and freight agents fall into. And you may have several that are like that. And it's follow-up after follow-up after follow-up, and to no end, right? Many times. And maybe one day they'll eventually just sort of, hit you back with, yeah, we're good for now, because umpteen months have gone by and now they don't need you anymore, right? They really kind of didn't need you in the first place, but they sort of kept you on the back burner just in case, right? But a lot of the new people that come into the industry, and I'm gonna give you a statistic, and I'm pretty sure I remember this correctly. Like 60% of all freight brokers and agents fail in their first year, right? And one of the things that I notice is that everybody's afraid to prospect, right? They're afraid to do sales. Oh, apologize. And so, when I talk to them and they go, Tim, I'm just not having the success that I would like. And I say, okay, well, have you found a niche? Well, I'm just sort of throwing a dart at the wall and hoping something sticks, right? We can do open deck, we can do drive-in, we can do reefer. Pick a niche, right? That is going to help you. We've talked about this in previous videos, becoming an expert in a certain area. I'm not the only one that says this. There's other YouTube channels out there that will back that up. I'm not saying that you can't run multiple different types of freight, but when you're first starting out and just kind of, it's a lot more difficult, right? So, using produce as an example, if you want to get into produce, there's seasonal produce. Now a majority of the produce, moves spring, summer, maybe even into early fall. But then you have winter crops, like, I've said in previous videos, you need all your root vegetables and things, potatoes, carrots, etc. So become an expert in moving produce if that's what you're doing, right? And so when you make more prospect calls, right, more cold calls, and making that connection, that confidence in moving produce, right, is going to be portrayed in that call. That corn has to be iced, right? What temperature tomatoes run at. What temperature watermelon runs at, or avocados, or whatever it is, right? It doesn't matter. Can it go on a vented van? Is it the right type of vented van? Because there's different types of vented vans, right? So, knowing all of these things is going to come through, and that prospect is going to be much more likely to give you a chance, right? To fill out your credit application so that you can get a line of credit established for them and things like this. But one of the things that I see is that, a lot of you first starting out, because you're so afraid of the phone, you just want to do email. And I'm not saying that email can't be effective, but there's no chance to handle objections during in an email, right? You don't know if that email is going to end up in the circular file, essentially, right? So I'm not a huge fan of email. I'm not saying that it can't be effective. I just don't find it nearly as effective, right? And if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments, okay? But a lot of the people that I've talked to over the years I said, well, okay, how many calls are you making? And this is another thing, you're going to get, if you talk to a dozen different, successful brokers or agents, and ask them, how many phone calls should I be making during the day? Well, some might say 100, 150, right? It's all about volume. Some might say, no, you don't need to make as many phone calls. It's more about quality over quantity, right? You'll probably end up with 9 different answers out of a dozen, right? So find out what works best for you, right? I'm not gonna get into what is right, wrong, or otherwise, but just something to think about. Okay. But a lot of you that's first starting out, let's say you're working on volume calls and you're only making 11 or 13 calls a day, 9 calls a day. Of course, you're not going to see the success that you would normally see, right? Because you're just sort of throwing a dart at the wall, right? And so that's why 60% of you end up failing, right? And the second thing with that is that you get discouraged because you start hearing no, right? Every successful broker and broker agent hears the word no. And we hear it a lot more than you think. Everybody says, oh, well, it must be nice. Oh, how did you do that? It took time, right, to develop my sales pitch process, right? It took time to understand that prospect's needs 90% of the time before I even picked up the phone to dial, right? I do a lot of research on my potential clients before I even called them, right? I try to find out what lanes they're moving. If it's, again, using our example of produce, what type of produce are they moving? Do I know what temperature that it moves at? Things like this, right? And, depending upon the time of the year, again, can it move on a vented van as well as a reefer? All of these types of things, right? So, yeah, I would say don't be afraid to pick up the phone, regardless of whether you're doing volume calls or if you're, looking at quality over quantity. You can't be afraid of the phone, right? And I've listened in on some phone calls from new agents, new brokers, and their sales pitch was not the greatest, but they went into it with the confidence of a 2-year-old, right? I've said that before. If you've been around children before, 2-year-olds, they are something else, right? Or at least mine were. They have no fear, right? And so on these sales calls, that confidence on that phone call was relayed to that prospect, right? They weren't hesitant about anything. And even though, again, I was like, listening in, I'm like, oh, I maybe would have handled that a little bit better or something. I'm kind of wincing in the background there on mute and things, but they got the customer, right? Whether it was a first call, a follow-up call, whatever. Confidence is key. And, this is one of the things that I've mentioned in previous videos about, practicing, right? And I'm not a big fan of scripts because you're sort of not, it's not laid out to handle objections, right? Or maybe some of the other follow-up questions based on your prospect's responses to your initial questions. But if you're prepared for that, if you at least have an outline, and you're prepared to handle objections or maybe some outside additional questions that you don't have on your script based on your prospect's response, yeah, scripts can be great, right? And honestly, it took me a while to develop my sales process. I didn't come from a sales background. I kind of did. I was in the construction trades and things like that for years before I got into freight brokering, and those circumstances worked out to where, well, I'm not going to get into it, but anywho, yeah, just go into it with a lot of confidence. Don't try to be TQL or CH Robinson or anything and get caught into, buying and absorbing all of this stuff, because you're going to end up with some initial costs involved, especially if you're the freight broker, right? You're going to have your bond, your insurance, your load board fees, your TMS fees, like all these things, and they're going to be reoccurring month over month. As an agent, you typically don't have, all of those expenses. You might be asked to pay for your own load boards or something, but you don't have the bond, you don't have the insurance, you're not paying for the TMS, things like this, right? But you're still going to have probably some sort of reoccurring fees, maybe your CRM, if your TMS doesn't already include it, things like this, right? Which I would highly recommend investing in a CRM, or even getting a free one like, HubSpot. That's one that I use, and have used over the years. There's a free version. I still use the free version. It costs nothing, right? And I'm still a pen to pad kind of a person. I like a hard copy in front of me, right? At the end of my day, I typically write down in priority what I need to accomplish for the next day. And I like to get those things that are of priority done first, right? That's actually something I kind of stole years ago from Dennis O'Leary, right? If you're familiar with Shark Tank, that was something that he does. Everything else kind of gets on the back burner. So, and it's worked out well for me. So it's something, I guess, to kind of consider. There's different things that they don't always tell you in training or in other videos about. And I'm not here to be a naysayer, because I'm letting you know what some of these pitfalls are. So maybe decide whether this is the right path for you or not. And this is not a 9-to-5 job. Typically, this is a career. Okay. There's times I've answered calls at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, right? Some emergency, whether it was a driver that was under a load for me, it might be a customer, some emergency type situation. So it is a career. It is not working at McDonald's. So, and for those of you that don't have any experience in the logistics industry and trucking, and you decide to go out and get your authority and get your bond and everything, maybe you took a training course, maybe you didn't. Maybe somebody led you to believe that, just file for this and get this and do that and you're all set. And then you're sitting back going, now what? Right? Don't do it. I would suggest finding a mentor, a shadow, take a training course, at least have some sort of a stepping stone going into it, right? Start off as a freight agent, right? And not all freight brokerages, if you're a freight agent, brand new or looking to get into this, not all freight brokerages are created equal, right? Just like not all trucking companies are created equal. If you're a company driver or something, who you sign on with, do they offer, what's their back office support like, right? Do they offer any type of mentorship? Is there long delays between questions? If you have a question about something, sometimes there's very delayed responses and things. And that's one thing I really love about our organization, is that, all the different departments sort of network together, and you can, if there's a question on something or something needs to get an override, there's a glitch, there's something, there is support from here to the heavens, right? And I absolutely love where I'm at. I really do. So, but when I first started out, it was basically kind of throw you to the wolves. There was no mentorship. I struggled that first while, and there again, that was another reason why I started the Facebook group and eventually started this channel, was because I had gotten into some other Facebook groups, seeking guidance or some tips, to kind of help get off the ground, because there was gaps. There was things that they didn't discuss. I quickly realized that they did not discuss during my training, right? And there was a lot of naysayers, right? Don't listen to them. If you really want this, you can do this. I believe in you. So do it. But, you've got to brush off that negativity. You've got to brush off those no's. Okay. You can do this. And maybe you find yourself right now watching this and going, man, I've been in this for 2 months and I'm getting nowhere, and I want to hang it up. Change your approach. Every successful person in life has experienced failure. At some point in time, they have experienced failure, but they learned from that failure. They learned what didn't work, right? Don't keep trying to do the same thing over and over again. Don't say, oh, it must be nice. That's an excuse. That is an excuse. Okay? Change up your approach. Don't listen to the negativity. You can do this. 2025, I believe, is going to be a better year for the industry. And so that's another reason why I wanted to do this video. And this gentleman, this guest speaker that we're going to have on the 17th, I think that it's going to be very, very beneficial for a lot of you. It's going to be much more beyond what I'm talking about today, right? But yeah, shrug off that negativity, shrug off those no's. Don't blame the economy. Don't blame, this person because this person did that. No, that's what failures do. Failures blame everybody and everything, right? So go out there and get them. Okay. There's customers out there. Manufacturing is coming back to the U.S. Okay. Start making those calls now. Or if you're doing the email thing, send the email. But do it. Okay. And if your email script, if your phone script isn't working, change it up, right? Change your approach. Practice. If you find yourself saying a lot, which I'm guilty of, right? Some of you have commented in other videos, that I said a lot. I think that some of that is sort of a result of doing these recorded videos versus doing live. There. So it's just easier if you have someone else to converse with, I think, a lot of times, but maybe not. Maybe I'll have to go back and watch some of my previous live videos and see. But yeah, don't let the naysayers get you, right? Stay motivated, stay diligent. You can do this. Okay. So I wanted to do this video to help you out. I don't want it to make you think that you can't do it or anything, because you can, right? I had extreme doubts when I first started, extreme doubts, but it's worked out. It's worked out. It took some time. I had to make some changes. I had to adapt. I pay attention to what's going on in the industry. I talk to a lot of people, and and I'm like, did you hear about this? What? No. So and I'm not saying, and you can get bogged down, trying to pay attention to 100% of everything that's going on in the industry, but pick out some of the major things, right? That's why I sort of like to do some news updates and things like that on the channel from time to time. And I kind of did a lot more of that than I maybe should have, right? I should have done some more videos like this, or offering tip videos or something like that, like I had done in the past. But yeah, I believe in you. Go out and get them. It's a new day. It's a new week, right? Well, yesterday started the new week, but yeah, make those phone calls, right? And I hope that this video helped you. And again, if anybody wants to reach out to me, if you have questions about anything, Let me pop up my email again for you. Right there we go. freightmasterresources@gmail.com. If you maybe are looking for some help, some direction, again, if you're having a hard time finding prospects, I've got previous videos on how to find prospects, or go get eCarrierCheck, right? Jared and Nate would love to talk to you. Super great guys, super friendly. Again, check out their YouTube channel. You'll see, right? Before you invest a penny, watch go check out a couple of their videos on here on YouTube, right? And then go get eCarrierCheck. You will thank me later, right? I've turned umpteen people onto eCarrierCheck, and they messaged me back, called me back, and said, "OMG, Tim," right? It's helped them exponentially, right? So, and just like, with Operfi, all the information, resources, and things that they can provide, so check them out. It costs nothing to talk to somebody, see if they're a right fit. Again, if you're former law enforcement or a veteran, things like this, they offer discounts, and they can, based on your needs, they'll do their best to work with you. So check them out. Okay. I hope this video helped everybody, at least to some extent, especially if you're new, or maybe you just kind of found yourself in a rut. You got bogged down, right? Maybe you've been in this for a year or two, or even 3, and you've sort of lost sight of, maybe kind of gotten a rut or something, and what you were doing before isn't working anymore. Change it up. Okay? Change it up. Stay motivated. All right? Again, I hope this helped. We'll see everybody back here next time. Till then, have a great day, and as always, be kind to one another. Bye-bye now.